What's up guys, welcome to another video. So I thought I would take a detour from my normal content, or actually what I've been filming for a while, from the JZ build. I am still working on it, but I want to get everything filmed and then release it all together. But this is the quick update on that. I know some people have been asking me about it, but I actually wanted to make something short about an E46 power steering pump replacement. So I sold the 7 Series a while back, and I've been driving this car for probably about 3 months now. I got the car and I replaced the power steering pump the first time, but it went out again. And I actually did a little bit of digging online, and I figured out why it fails. So I'm actually going to go through how to replace the power steering pump and all the components. I have a reservoir as well as the return lines, but I'd like to show you guys exactly where it's failing and why it's failing. So in case anybody else is having the same issue, then you guys can figure it out, and I can dive right into it here momentarily. So the tools I'm going to be using, of course, a ratchet, a 10 and a 13. I'm actually going to be working from the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and jack the car up, and then of course remove the air intake box and that little fan shroud right there. So I'll get straight to that and then show you guys pretty much the pump and how I pull it out, because it's going to be pretty quick. I don't estimate the job to take any more than, I want to say, an hour. All right, so I now have jacked up the car. It's just kind of chilling on jacks right now. So basically, we need to access this reservoir right here. There are 2 return lines at the very bottom. These are going to be 13s holding the actual bracket. So that's the actual bracket, 2 13s. And then there's 2 10mm bolts right here. You know, to get this little cheap piece of plastic off, I'm pretty sure, like everybody else's, the little plastic clips are garbage. So mine comes off easy, and then 1 plug-in, which I've already removed right here. So I'm going to go ahead and blast those off real quick. A 10mm. Put those right there, and then this actually lifts off. There is 1 hose clamp right here, so it just requires a flathead screwdriver to remove that. I hope you guys can hear me over the air compressor. Okay, so here are the 2 13mm retaining bolts that hold the bracket into place. Well, this little plastic thing right here, pretty much a bracket. We're gonna go and take those out real quick. All right, so if you take a look at the actual power steering reservoir, you notice that there's a bunch of gunk built all over it. Basically carbon deposit and oil, or not oil, basically fluid that's leaked out. So if you take a close look here, I can actually see that there's a split in the hose with liquid starting to protrude out of the hose. So this is actually a telltale sign that your reservoir is bad. And believe it or not, there actually is an internal filter inside the reservoir itself. So lesson learned, whenever you replace your power steering pump, it's actually good preventative maintenance to go ahead and replace the actual reservoir as well as the accompanying lines. Now, one thing that I did notice is these lines seem to be tied on there, not with the hose clamp, but it's a crimping method that they actually come from factory like that. So this seems pretty easy to disconnect. It looks like a pinch and pull, kind of like, looks like one of those like a fuel line disconnect almost. But what I'm actually going to do is I'll possibly end up cutting these off and just you know, routing the hosing down there and then disconnecting from the bottom as well. There's 2 high pressure lines on the very bottom, which I'll show you guys here in a minute, but I actually do have a trick for not trying to make as much of a mess, because as you can see, there's still quite a bit of fluid in here. So I'm actually going to disconnect the mic and then show you guys my small trick that I use It literally costs like 50 cents at the store. So I'll show you guys right now. Alright guys, so I went ahead and cut my hoses because I'm not going to be reusing them. I got new ones right here. I would go ahead and recommend just replacing your hoses. These cost me like 40 bucks total for the pair, and it'll save you a lot of headache. I actually got these at a local retailer, but you can get them from Euro Parts as well. So I'll go ahead and put a link for the description, or a link in the description, sorry, for these two hoses. So if anybody needs quick access to those will be down below. But the next thing that I'm going to actually do, so I've done this two ways. I need to go ahead and remove the fan shroud, which is very easy. It's just disconnect this, and mine is very loose. There is one Torx bit bolt that holds it in. Mine is actually broken from a long time ago. I'm actually tempted to just break it off, and just a one connector right there. So there's two ways of doing it. One way is actually getting an Allen key and removing the actual all the little Allen bolts that are in the back of the fan, or you can remove the fan clutch, which I do have the fan clutch tool. I'm just gonna see what's easier, and then I'll give you guys an update here in a minute. Oh, and in case anybody was wondering, this bolt right here, I ended up breaking mine off anyways, but one of the bolts that holds on the fan shroud is a T25. So in case anybody wanted to know, that's what it is. Mine's pretty much loose. All I have to do is just wiggle it out. But yeah, mine's just plastic and broken, but I don't really care because it's actually held in by this little connection pretty well, and this one right here, which I just wiggled out. So just you guys do whatever's easier for you. Just break the clip. It's fine. It's gonna be okay. All right guys, so I actually had a feeling this was gonna happen. I'm actually just gonna use an Allen key to take off these bolts and remove the fan. I have the tools to remove the actual fan clutch, before anybody says that I don't. I'll actually put a link for those in the description too, but you don't need it. I've actually done this, having to remove the fan clutch several times whenever I had my E38, and I absolutely hate doing it. I will avoid doing that at all costs. It fucking sucks. It's hard, it's tedious, and sometimes I can get rusted on there. Personally, I don't just want to do it. So all I'm gonna do is just unthread all these little bolts. Yeah, it sucks, it's gonna take a little bit longer, but just use an Allen key, unthread the bolts that hold the fan onto the fan clutch, and I will give you guys an update here in a second once that's off and what it looks like. All right, so I ended up just removing the fan, or separating it from the fan clutch. Like I said, I absolutely hate fucking removing the fan clutch. I will avoid it at all costs. But yeah, it is just a couple Allen key bolts. It's 3 of them actually. 1, 2, 3. Just use the Allen key. So next thing to do is I need to go ahead and relieve tension from the belt. The tensioner pulley is going to be the one underneath. So okay, so it's kind of like caddy corner to the alternator pulley. It's going to be right here. I'm going to be using a T50. I think it is supposed to be a T55. If I'm wrong, correct me, but this one doesn't have that much play in it, and I feel comfortable that I'm not going to fuck anything up by relieving the tension using a T50 instead of a T55. Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is gonna work, and I don't feel like hunting down my T55 because I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in there. You get what I mean? Okay, so the T50 ended up working for me. What I ended up doing is placing the wrench down here where it hangs down and then reaching my hand through here, and then I pulled up in this manner and I loosened the belt. I'm just going to leave it right here for now and not unwind it from everything at the moment. Here's the power steering pump right here. This is where we're going to go underneath the car and remove. All right, so now we are underneath the car. There is one high pressure line right here that ties into the bottom. This is a return line right here. This is the one that we cut off earlier. This one has a little heat shielding on it, which you can tell that's the one I snipped off up there. And it looks like back here, it appears to be right there. It appears to be a 13 millimeter. I will let you guys know if it's wrong, but there also appears to be another 13, possibly 14 at the top of the assembly. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this hose clamp. I'm probably going to reuse that, to be honest. That hose clamp will be good. And disconnect the high pressure line. I'm just going to use a box end wrench if I can find it, and I'll give you guys probably like a little scrawler on the screen. There's some text on the screen to let you guys know what size that is. If I give up, I'm just going to use channel locks and say fuck it. Also like to note, so one of the ways you can usually diagnose a power steering pump if it's gone bad is actually to relieve tension off the belt and look for any wiggling. So this is actually a sign of abnormal wear and tear, which I think was probably the result of poor circulation because of the reservoir. So you can tell right here that the shaft is actually separated from the pump. So we have a free spinning shaft, and that's why there's no power steering. It's not connected to anything. So I can probably blast these bolts off and show you guys too once I get it out of the car. So I'm just gonna work on removing it from the car, and then I'll give you guys an update here in a second. But yeah, that's a good way to diagnose if a power steering pump is bad. Just wiggle the pulley. So I ended up removing the second 13 millimeter bolt. This was the short one, and then the first one that I removed was the long one. Now I actually am going to have to remove the three 13 millimeter bolts that hold on, basically attach the pulley to the actual pump, just to aid in removal, because it's kind of in the way. I can probably wiggle it, but I don't want to break this pulley because I don't have an extra one laying around. So I'll put the camera down because I need one hand to hold the actual pulley and then the other hand to blast it off with the air ratchet. So I'll give another update momentarily once I have removed this. All right, so I went ahead and got the pump out of the car, and I have the pulley separated from it. I got a towel blowing away right there. I'm gonna go ahead and arrange an area on my little workstation right here. I have all the JZ parts underneath here, so just gonna use a piece of cardboard just for the video's sake, so we have a semi-clean working area and I can show you guys what exactly needs to be transferred from the old pump to the new pump, which I have in the box right here. Yeah, so I actually have the new pump right here, just made in China. I'll put a link to this in the description. I think this costs 80 or something dollars. I got it on Amazon. If you want to buy the original BMW branded power steering pump, go ahead and check the description. I'll put a link for the Euro Parts website in there so you can get the OE pump with the lifetime warranty if you want. I just got this one because I really don't care about the pump that much. It's all made in China anyways, to be honest. All right, so I have everything laid out on the workbench. I'm going to go ahead and start transferring some of the brackets and the hose in the same orientation that it's on this pump. I'll be using a, what is this? This is a T40. So I'm going to go ahead and start transferring things over from point A to point B. All right, so I actually got the other pump fully assembled. I relocated all the accessories and the brackets that needed to move over from the old pump to the new pump. However, I just wanted to see where the other pump failed. So I broke apart the back casing. The O-ring is still in good tact, but you can see where it failed here. These are just little counterbalance weights that are in there. They'll fall out freely, but you can see clearly where the pump failed. And it would be nice if maybe an aftermarket solution could provide maybe like a billet interior or maybe even a rebuild kit. I probably should have looked into a rebuild kit because as soon as this part were to be replaced, the pump would work perfectly fine. BMW came out with this pump, I believe, in 2001. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is an LF20 pump. The upgraded pump that they use in different models was called the LF30, and it actually operated at a higher pressure, which would mean that it was easier to turn the steering wheel. Now, if it was operating at a higher pressure, it would lead me to believe that this was actually made out of a different material in the upgraded pump. So maybe, possibly, you can swap internals and then use your old pump. I'm probably wrong though, but anyways, this is where your pump is gonna fail if it's gonna fail. You can tell where So the shaft actually is in good condition. It was wiggling, and the wiggle noise was actually a result of this. So you can see where it failed right there. Keep on dropping it, but just in case anybody wanted to know, that's how the LF20 power steering pump fails, which the E46 BMWs were notorious for. All right, so now that I have all the components moved from pump A to pump B, basically the old pump to the new pump, I'm gonna go ahead and start installing back everything, installing everything back in reverse order. I still have one hose to install. Wow. I still have one hose to install, but I'll actually give an update once everything's back together and running again, and I'll show you my startup procedure for whenever I install a new power steering pump. So I'll be right back. All right, I am back. I got the hose clamps. I'm gonna go ahead and get all of this secured with the feed and the return line. So I'll get all that put together and then come back with a quick update. All right, so now that everything is finally put together, I'm gonna go ahead. So I already have the lid removed, and I'm going to top it off, or actually fill it up with the correct automatic transmission fluid. I got this from a local retailer, but I'll also put a link in the description so you can get this as well. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and top this off and then start the vehicle while it's at an incline and let the fluids get running through there, and then turn the wheel while there's no load on the pump. So I'll keep the front wheels in the air and get some fluid going in there, and then do a basically breaking the pump in and putting it into use when there's not a lot of load on it because the front wheels are in the air. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do a cold start. And then slowly start turning the wheel. We'll go one revolution all the way to the right, and then all the way to the left. All right. I can actually hear the pump engaging, and what I'm going to do right now is go and check for circulation, which is slight movement in the fluid inside the reservoir. So let's go check that out. Everything looks good to me. Yeah, it is nice to have power steering back. It was actually getting pretty annoying having to double hand the wheel on the turns. But yeah, it's back. So what I'm gonna do whenever I get home, I'm just driving around the neighborhood making sure it works. I'm gonna go and double check the fluid level, and that's pretty much it. I'll probably end up just doing an oil change on this car tomorrow, and then I'm good to roll. Alright guys, that's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully some people found it helpful. If not, maybe you know how to install a power steering pump now. But that's gonna be it for this video. I will continue filming my 2JZ rebuild. Like I said, I do kind of want to have that all done in one video, so I'm still filming it. I might cut it short after I finish installing the cylinder head, which I'm doing right now. So stay tuned for that, and that will be out as soon as I get it edited. As for right now, I'm out. Thanks guys.